3000.
What is doing? My name is Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by an artist who wears many hats. So I'm just going to say an artist.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Michael Fikaris. Did I say that correctly?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Do people mess your name up?
Of course.
What do they say?
You can call me anything as long as it's not an idiot. But I think Fikaris, yeah, there's been some good ones. Come on.
Yeah, with the F
In this country.
I
F
get
and the
that.
K, yeah.
Yeah, that's it kind of, it writes itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you are an artist, but you, like I said, you wear many hats. You do lots of different style of art.
Yeah.
What fine artist? When you meet someone, what do you say?
Well, we were talking about this. Visual art, I guess.
Visual art. There you
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Yeah, but art in this country, it's a good one, isn't it?
It is. Because a lot of people think now musical artist, when someone says an artist, they think visual artist, but it's sort of, it's a very, very broad term.
Yeah, philosopher, thinker.
Yep. I'm an artist. I'm a bullshit artist.
Yeah, very important. We're built on that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just sit with an artist as being full of shit. For sure, come on.
Yeah. Well, it's only just, and let's be honest, in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, the last couple of decades, it's been a legitimate occupation, really. A lot of people have said for years, what's your real job? But now people can say, no, this is what I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you could always say that, but I guess it's, at the end of the day, art is what you can get away with, right?
Right.
And so you can call yourself a lot of stuff. And you could say in a trade sense, I often use the word illustrator.
Yes.
Perhaps if I'm coming into a new country, and it might make more sense to be able to talk about that in a professional sense. But
Yes.
yeah, art can be vague. It's a 3-letter word.
It is.
It's a wonderful word. It's understood in most languages, I believe.
Really? Without much
And like God, it's
translation?
hateful. It can also be used against us.
Right.
Don't you reckon?
For sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different connotations to art.
Yeah.
We'll get deep. All right. Well, let's talk about your beginnings with art. From a young age. Where are you growing up and how did you get involved in this beautiful artistic scene?
Okay, that's the question. I mean, I'm from factory workers, so art is sort of like hands-on. Yeah. I like to say I was born on Hope. I was literally born on Hope Street in Brunswick, 3066.
Wow.
And I still live near Hope today. I was nearly killed on Hope, which was a
You would have seen it change a lot in that time, though.
runaway car.
Yeah.
Hit me, drove off. And
Hit and run.
yeah, hit and run.
How old
That's what
were you?
Yeah, I was 6.
Wow.
Broken hips.
Jesus.
Sitting in the gutter. I still remember that bluestone. Took me a long time to get back on the bluestone.
Wow.
I think I was out of commish for a couple of years as a young kid. And possibly that's where I got interested in detail. Maybe. Maybe Mahoney. But
Because a 6-year-old wants to get out and run around and do stuff, I guess. If you've got
Yeah.
broken hips, you've got to sit down and entertain yourself.
Yeah, leg and hips. And wow, the pictures are pretty gory. But yeah, Brunswick West, that's where I am from. I was born drop kick from the MCG in East Melbourne.
Yep.
I promised I would not rap on your show because it's a fun hobby. Not that was rapping. I just want to say, love your show, love people coming on doing that. But yeah, I was born in Brunswick.
And then that's a very... Look, and it's changed a bit now, but I'm guessing then it was a very working class, factory sort of industrial kind of area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slowly
Just
changing.
like here.
Yeah, like here, yeah.
But it's still beautiful. I still live there. I love it. The people are great. There's a good diversity. But yeah, then I moved up to North Queensland as a kid, possibly after that car accident. Possibly there was something. I don't know the full story. But then...
It's a very different place, North Queensland, Brunswick.
Yeah, it's far away. My mother took us as far away as we could, and we ended up in North Queensland. So
Right,
I
like
grew up there,
Townsville somewhere?
Very grateful up that way.
Yep.
And lived around all sorts of places. Had a wonderful upbringing. Very grateful. But yeah, the outdoors, lots of natural stuff. And then I came back here. So I came back here when I was an adult, like to work.
Right.
So it's kind of my artist trajectory as far as like wanting to work in the field and make a living from it. So I've tried, as you mentioned, many hats in this field. Not wearing any today, so I can channel the fact that I have many.
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I've worked in many areas.
Did you
of the
study
subject.
art up there in Queensland?
No, studied people though, and all the other things that come along with it.
Yep. And
All the tools.
But that is very important because if your story was you grew up in Brunswick and then you stayed there, and then you stayed there, and you stayed there.
Yeah.
It's not really that interesting. You've got to go and experience more of the country or of the world.
Yeah, I agree.
So it gave you more of a perspective.
I think it did, in retrospect. It was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. No spring chicken. But yeah. And I was just up that way again recently, and it really is, many countries away.
It is, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, totally. So different.
In Europe, that would be 3 countries away.
Absolutely.
You know?
And there's another Europe there, I guess. Coming back here was the idea to get involved in this field, which I am, and that's why I call myself an artist. And it is, I think I've only used that word though without being burdened as an Australian, or so-called Australia, that has such a history of loading us, as we were just talking about before maybe you were recording, that it's not a reasonable trade.
Yeah, I think it is changing, and I think people are coming to terms with that more. But, like I'm only in my 40s, and if I said to my school teacher I wanted to be an artist, they're like, oh, you want to be an art teacher, or you want to be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Being an artist didn't seem to be a legitimate career path, where now
That's right.
it seems to be, but we have to sort of navigate through Illustrator, or like you were saying before, to soften the blow rather than to call yourself a capital A artist.
Yeah, well, because it's just so broad and vague and wonderful. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I can use that because I do feel like that it's broad and varied, and there's many versions of that theme.
Uh-huh. So when you're honing your craft before you came to Melbourne again as an adult, comic books, what's inspiring you to draw, to illustrate, to make art?
So coming along with living in Townsville, I was like a lot of kids as a teenager. I'm a 70s kid, so I sort of grew up inspired by capitalist culture that was exciting at the time. New York, as my grandfather, who's a Ukrainian refugee, would be like, it's Yankee Doodle propaganda. Wasn't into it, of course, it made me want to get into it more. And I was really into like finding this culture from America. Mad Magazine, loved that. Collected that maybe since I was 10.
Yep.
Beat Street.
Yeah.
Movies like this that were like a copy of a culture that seemed so far away, especially to a kid in like Townsville. That's where growing up from like 7 to 16 sort of age. Different areas of North Queensland.
And even just your availability to find comic books and stuff would be not like you're going to get in a Melbourne or Sydney.
Oh yeah, I don't know where I found some of these comics. I think they were just from older people. Yeah, I don't remember stores actually at all. Music, definitely, but culture-wise, which is so relevant for that era. This is like early '80s. Was harder to find. Obviously, it was on telly and stuff that you'd
morning
find in
cartoon.
mainstream culture, and you'd find those sections of it. That you could watch the whole movie just for that 10 seconds for that area that you knew was a little bit like your own life. Mm-hmm. And so I was inspired by that and started drawing with friends in toilet blocks and imitating that sort of stuff, and altering our clothes to feel more interesting and more unique, and drawing a lot and making maybe I went to school like most of us. I have an education for a little while. It didn't stay that long, but I was making comics and trying to imitate Mad Magazine, the anthology of stories and culture around us. Mm-hmm. That's still with me today. It's sort of like many things all mixed in together. Mm-hmm. But that's sort of the beginnings of realizing I am being selected by a spirit, because I didn't want to do this. No one around me wants me to do this.
Right.
And when I say factory workers, I mean like just regular working class people.
Yep.
And we're outdoorsy people. And for some reason, I just wanted to make smaller things and be inside and investigate stuff. And that's why I came back, because that's where I heard it was at. And I knew, Melbourne had a lot of that. I think it's still recognized as a place in this country, Australia, that is, where
Hub
it's
for
at.
creatives.
Yeah. Where you'll meet others.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm guessing when you're there and you're drawing and stuff, are other people like, come on, man, we're going to go play football or rugby, or we're going to go do this? But
I
you're
was
like,
into that too.
You were?
Yeah, but then there was extra time. But then it would suffer with the school hours. So you want to play sports and be drawing, and all the rest of it, all the fun stuff that you can do, exploring. I mean, definitely like Townsville's like painting on dams, wagon school to then go paint on dam walls and practice. But I got, I guess the thing with learning and enjoying and wearing many hats and enjoying many versions of this wonderful broad spectrum that is the arts is that you just can keep learning. There's just more and more and more. So, of course, I'd just be getting into other versions of art, which relentlessly I've continued since.
Yep.
But my first job, my art teacher got me. I was good at like social studies and the art class.
Which is like fine arts, I'm guessing then. There wasn't specific art classes at high school?
It's like graphic arts. So my first job, I went and worked in a screen printing factory, and I was like illustrator. I was drawing the stuff that, I got hired. My art teacher's like, tell you what, you're kind of sucking at school. Why don't you go and meet so-and-so? Miss Crawford, bless, was amazing. She was like,
awesome,
she's the one who introduced me to, I forget the group. It was this group. At the time, we were living in Toowoomba, Toowoomba City. And I went to school there for 2 years. I went to a few schools, but anyway, just under 2 years. Anyway, so I went to this Regal screen printing. I got a job on my jackets that I'd drawn for all my classmates that at the time were like death metal and like complex.
Yep.
And she's like, you're hired. This is great. What we need is someone to draw all this ads basically bigger.
By hand?
By hand. This is 1980 something, 88.
Yeah, there's no illustrator.
89.
Yeah.
But I did lose that job about a year later to cartridges that made typeface. So I also used to do the letters.
Yeah, like typesetting.
Yeah, but then these cartridges came in, which were like little 8-track things, and they just basically printed out decals that the letters, it was a signwriting place, this Regal screen printing, and did sports jerseys. And it did one of the best jobs I remember as a kid doing was I got to redraw like a hotel. And basically the hotel just wanted, this illustration that was stuck up on the side of the highway that you could see, and it was in a big light box.
Yeah.
I feel like I had weeks on that. And I learned so much, cutting all this basic stencil sort of thing, and all my skills that I'd learned from playing around with friends in the drains or whatever had then all just come forth.
So in the drains, are you doing graffiti style stuff, or are you just doing art?
I'm imitating Beat Street.
Okay.
I was in I had Toowoomba Townsville tagging team. We had TNT. We had FBI fast bombing images. We had basically this. It was like an FBI guy who was holding a card out. I used to paint it in dunny blocks on the side of a dunny,
Yeah.
out the back. It's some other kids would say it was more like just practicing, getting a whiff as well.
Yep.
Experimenting with drugs, experimenting with art, visuals, all of that stuff. Teenage goodness, health.
Was
so
it
grateful?
Kmart's got auto paint. Where are you pinching your paint from? Not pinching. Where are you?
I reckon my stepdads had some paint to start with.
Yep.
Yeah, and we definitely. I've brought up with other boys as well, so we were a little rack and crew. We're definitely troublemakers. Yeah, we steal it from all over. I feel like the paint. That's a bit vague where we got the paint from. Maybe some other people supplied some paint with I remember painting a dam. Was one of the best things I did was like a Mr. Squiggle. It was like a 3-color thing. When you're young, it's like just painting big was just such an awesome thing. Mm-hmm. And even today, sometimes when doing something like, it's just such a joy to just hit a spot when you've got it in your brain. But Mr. Squiggle, it was very funkified, Mm-hmm. That oversized nose and that ridiculous hair.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers Mr. Squiggle.
I do
I think
indeed.
it's still running.
Is it though?
Maybe? Or no, I don't know.
Upside down.
No idea.
Upside down was Blackboard.
Yeah.
Because the guy was doing it with the puppet. Yeah.
Talking about this stuff, it all comes back like it's still there. I feel like I love sharing a drawing like that show did too.
Yeah.
Yeah, upside down, Miss Jane.
Yeah. Well, it was such a cool concept. And I used to sort of do that with my mates where you would just get a sketchbook, draw some shapes, and what can you make it into?
Still.
Yeah.
What a joy.
An amazing concept.
Yeah.
I know people that have the art jams where everyone will add a little bit, they just pass the book around. It's the same sort of concept.
Still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super cool. So back in those days, there was a mini little graffiti scene in northern Queensland.
I feel like I got in trouble at Expo 88 in Brisbane
88.
and I was doing TNT and writing it. It's pretty embarrassing, but this is what we're here for. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's embarrassing, actually, whatever, but it's just like, I was so into it. I think it was only 3 of us, but I got pretty tired of the crew sort of thing. Or whatever you want to say, like that culture of boys being like dangerous pretty quick. And I would more use the spray can to do things like slogans, or I was really into like writing, give Christ back to the Martians, which was something I wrote for ages.
Right. Just to weird people out.
Oh, just as I was realizing how full of hot air Christianity was. I think living in some of these places, like I say, Toowoomba, have you been there?
I have, but I was a kid. Yeah, my
Even as a kid, it's very overt Christian propaganda. Or I don't know the right words for it. It was definitely in your face, like it's just a Christian society.
Yep.
Yeah, so maybe rebelling in that way, it stood out more to me to write that. And I was definitely like an advocate for freedom of speech, and like that's one of the greatest things we have still always, right?
Yeah.
Democracy. So I was just wanting to write stuff that I felt was important. Free the weed. I wrote that so many times. So I also did radio when I was a kid.
Okay.
I was really into that. When I was talking about before, like tangents of culture, I was really into radio, just like you with a great voice.
Community radio.
Yeah, and I was doing some radio at a university. I didn't actually go to university, to answer your question in long form, but I did go there, and I had a show. I trained to do radio when I was a teenager, and I did radio, but I got busted for doing graffiti out there. Well, I got in trouble. I think they just traced it back to me, and we did a rally with the weed, Free the Weed March. Jeez, we got in a lot of trouble. This is in Toowoomba. I basically got chased out of town.
What kind of music were you playing?
The music I play, I was really into, I still am, in anything experimental. One of the songs I remember them ripping the air off and putting on an ad was the Butthole Surfers. I love them, that Texan.
Pepper? Was it Pepper?
This is way before that. This is this is the one where they sort of riffed on, son, did you see your mother this weekend? You know that one? It's like a Led Zeppelin song hacked with some other American movie. If you see her, be sure to tell her, Satan, Satan, Satan.
Right. So you were poking the bear.
So yeah, I was literally reading from the Bible in a dry voice because to me I was like, this is complete farcical myth. It's interesting, but I'm learning as well as publicly learning.
Sorry, but there's some good morals in the Bible, I believe.
Absolutely, no doubt. It's just something about the capitalized state of the Bible in the New Testament. And without, going too deep into it, I was a kid. So I'm just sort of exploring and I'm realizing, all this stuff and my brain's active. And, I'm grateful, I'm healthy, but I got to get out of here. So I left. I had that little job for a while, saved some money. I went to Brisbane for a while and I had some illustration gigs with a radio show there, Triple Z,
right?
I believe, which I think is still going. Anyway, so it was the radio stuff for a little bit. Then I got to the Big Smoke. 93.
Did you ever think about going to Sydney, or it was always just Brisbane, then go to Melbourne?
Yeah, I moved with a girl, and we wanted to live in Melbourne. That's where we went to.
She was artistic as well?
Yeah, she had a job lined up. We stuck together a couple of years, but they ended up going back. They were professional and went back to the country. And I stayed.
Right.
But yeah, that's my trajectory getting into 3000 proper. Good times, 90s.
Yeah.
Landing there with a skateboard under my arm. That was one of the other cultures,
Love it.
Fashion, street culture or urban culture. And I remember even in the people I was meeting anyway, in the 90s, it was still just such a thing to redo your clothes and make your clothes, alter them.
Yep.
Or, rebuild and repurpose stuff.
Yep.
Which I think is a great culture that's continued.
For sure.
Yeah.
What kind of skateboard are you rocking back then?
It was street stuff, slappies. I'm a big guy, not a great skater, but I was into bowls, coping with a spliff, 50-50. Yeah, roll out, laugh about it. Definitely carried a skateboard till my 30s, but I had the hip thing, so it was not great.
Oh, yeah.
Not like, how high can you ollie sort of person, but I would rock up to a spot. It was more about hanging out in an area with people with a sketchbook.
Yep.
Really I was a pen pal, so I had a lot of pen pals. So mail.
Yep.
We're talking about postcodes, and I recognized the 3000. If I knew someone in that postcode, I'd be writing to them, I'm in your city,
Yeah.
I was living at the time. We ended up getting a place, and we did quite well in Blackburn.
Right.
Okay, so I'm living in the eastern suburbs, beautiful park sort of areas. Almost felt like Toowoomba, but then 20 minutes drive or whatever, you're in the city.
Yeah.
And, Melbourne City in the 90s was pretty low key. You could skate in there. You could have
Sundays,
a beer.
there was
It was
no one
so
around.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful times.
Yeah.
So you have great memories of that time. And all the, it's just lots of little stores. So getting back to comics, it'd be stores where I could finally find some of these things like Robert Crumb that I heard about, some of these amazing underground originators, or US originators anyway, that I could find and have my own copies, and started collecting stuff around. There's a lot of city spots still at the time.
Because I'm a bit younger, and when I was into comics in my, childhood and teenage years, Minotaur was the spot.
Yeah, Minotaur
right.
used to be great,
But before Minotaur, what was there? Because I can only sort of remember from say like 90 onwards.
Polyester was a go-to,
And that was on Brunswick Street.
yeah.
Yep.
And polyester had, quite a thing that, so talk about comics in Australia. If you're finding Australian comics, they're often imitating, mainstream stuff to try and get on board that, or they're handmade, they're self-published. And polyester had a lot of that.
Yep.
And that's where I landed. I got my first studio there. So to me, studio is really important. So I asked if I went to university or whatever. They're kind of, studios to me are like a uni where you meet other people.
On the job experience.
Yeah, and you learn other things and you get to do stuff together. So I had a studio in Fitzroy, like 96, on Fitzroy Street. And I still walk past it regularly, love that
On
neighborhood.
Brunswick Street.
So the building was on Brunswick Street, but the entrance was on Fitzroy Street.
Oh, on Fitzroy Street, okay.
And it's, the building, there used to be like, I think there is a 7-Eleven. It's like Johnson and Brunswick.
Yep.
Great neighborhood. I don't know, what can I say? And so I picked up a lot of other skills there. Got really into postering, putting up, again, like stuff that I believed in, anonymous stuff, subversive sort of
Was there a
activity.
poster scene then, or that's something that was pretty new?
I mean, postering's always been a thing. There was definitely info. Like I always look to the streets for information of underground culture. When I talk about comics or when I talk about any of this culture, it's often coming from working class people or poor people or, people that are coming from the soul and the love of it and possibly trying to break through to something greater in themselves.
Yep.
And give themselves, like their own joy other than just fitting into a marketplace, But yeah, Fitzroy, in those times, there was a poster scene with like photocopying, was really accessible, and you were seeing more interesting, abstract pieces around. And I was starting to basically put comics of my own around. The studio I moved in with, at the time I had a partner who was in making clothes, and I was with a friend who's from NZ, Taroa, who was painting. And these blended in as well. And I met they were like my earliest mentors, I reckon, this incredible artist couple called Nat and Nally. You ever heard of them? No. Nat and Nally, incredible. Natalie Thomas is still rolling it. I believe they're still both doing stuff, but they were like this duo of art that had no sellability. And there used to be the Brunswick Street Fair. It was like what would we call that? It was like the Brunswick Street Festival, I think it was called.
Yep.
And basically, it was just like people they'd make their own boats or, cars with stuff on them and make stuff. And they just had these posters, these were my studio mates. So I'm watching them make, and they had buttons, posters, and placards or, signs that they're holding. Just says, "We love art. I love art." And I'm just giving them to people to hold. And it was just like that. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love what they're doing. Yeah. And it was not for sale. It was a concept. And it was the first time I'd sort of thought outside of illustration or trying to make it, like sellable. I was like, this is more about us meeting others and working together. And
We're talking mid-90s now?
yeah, this is like 97.
Right.
So this is late 90s. And so about this, and so the city is pretty dead. We don't have markets, obviously got like the Queen Vic and, and stuff to do on the weekend, but there's not a lot of people living. Even, I think there's a few, but there's a lot of artists living there, but it's not a great place to live, the city.
No.
In the 90s.
People, the whole apartment culture hadn't taken off where people wanted to live and that people wanted to have a house where they could park their car and they didn't want to live there. There wasn't as many bars and restaurants, so it was just a different time. But that changes real quick.
Yeah, in retrospect.
Yeah.
At the time, I was grinding along though.
Yeah.
The late 90s is, pretty nice and slow. Yeah, the internet's around and stuff, but, so then I sort of run into... on the east side of the city, sort of just putting posters up, having fun, exploring. There's lots of empty buildings there's lots of good stuff in the 90s in the city. I mean, every city has it. It goes through these stages, right? That's what a city is. It's changing all the time. But I'm getting to know it more. I still go to the city regularly. I love it. Downtown Melbourne area. And when I'm in there, I come across like, I think it's Mallorca Place. Somewhere there's just these light boxes, and there's this gallery call themselves City Lights Project. And I'd heard of this book publisher doing poetry that I love that's like in San Fran. And these guys are doing like photos and art in light boxes. You heard of City Lights Projects? Mm-hmm. And so when I saw them, I was like, there's all these connections. And they're making art with this. They're just loving it and putting it out there as well. Mm-hmm. So that was quite a connection with the city at that stage.
Had you start making your own sort of publications and stuff through that?
Yeah, so late 90s, I'm making comics. I'm making lots of friends that are pen pals, and then meeting new people that have a lot of meetings.
That have a lot of meetings?
Yeah.
That don't do a lot, just have the meetings?
It's like a way to meet each other.
Okay.
So you don't have chat clubs. You don't have as much internet power. Internet's expensive back then.
Yeah. Not everyone had it. It wasn't... it was a different thing.
It's a way to meet up. And I feel like, I'm sure when you asked me to come on the show, you've written to me on social media. But if we had met, like, I don't know, at a club meeting or something like that, it would have been very different.
Yep.
And yeah, there used to be this place, the Stork Hotel. Uh-huh. So another thing I love is theatre, live performance, stuff like this. Another thing that's so passionate. And the Stork had basically all these cartoonists' pieces framed on the wall.
Yep.
And had, at about 8 o'clock on certain days or earlier or whatever time it was, a section of it become like the box office where they charge tickets and you could go upstairs and you'd watch a small performance.
Wow. What area is it?
This is like West. Stork was on Elizabeth.
Okay.
Stork Hotel. Like the stork brings the new baby.
Yep.
It's torn down now. It's a huge complex of apartments. Yeah. And had a wonderful tree out the front. This rickety old building that I'm sure there's a lot of great stories and yarning on the Stork. I've definitely, people in cartooning as a trade, like cartooning for tabloid and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. They had that on the wall. So it's more like political cartoons, that sort of art form that is strictly for print in a way.
Yep.
And these framed, wow, look at that. And that's where they had the meetings anyway. I think it was just the Stork meetings. I can't remember what the club was called. I can't remember who invited me first. But it was one of my pen pals or whatever that I'd known. We've been going there all the 90s, really, while I'm living here. So yeah, that's nice to bring back. Going to the Stork. And we'd have meetings there a lot, and then it just turned into piss-ups and fun times and everyone getting to know each other and, getting deeper and sharing the drawings.
And finding your subculture, finding the people that dig the same thing that you were into.
Precisely. Thank you. Back on track. We're printing stuff. We're making anthologies. So in this country, in comics, there's a lot of anthologies. They're collections. They're sort of like previews. You do your best stuff. It might only be a few pages, but I'm still a huge fan. And like Mad Magazine in a way, like you get a couple of previews and it's a cheaper value and you're like, I might only get that one. I'll get it for just that one artist that I like. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that. And people were making a lot of those. And yeah, that sort of evolved into turning them more into something that could go into a bookshop. Because by then, obviously you had, graphic novels and this whole, market for book format. Of comics, but still come from that underground culture, i.e. people telling their stories or getting across their message. It wasn't so much about the craft of like cartooning or precise illustration. It was more about the voice and the feeling behind the work. A lot like, visual art is. Often you're like, I'm feeling this piece. Yep. And then when you read about it, you're like, I don't know if I'm feeling as much. But often the comics are like this. They're like your little art piece within a collection. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
It's an interesting sort of transition that happened with comics, though, because it went from being such a disposable thing that people literally bought and kind of threw out to something that people held onto and just collected and treasured.
Yes.
That happened really kind of organically, but then it became something that people collected. But it was such a disposable thing in its early days.
Yeah. Yeah, and what are its early days? I mean, print is, the freedom of press is one of the greatest things our species has in some ways, and the comics are most affordable version of it. You get just jam-packed with goodness.
Yep.
And maybe we took it for granted for quite a while. Mm-hmm. And then maybe, when you say people collecting this, some of those people who've got comics from the 40s or 1930s or whatever, on the colonial clock, where you pull out this thing that's very valuable, but some of them are worth nothing still. Mm-hmm. And all that stuff's an interesting secondhand world.
Yeah.
I was keeping ones that I thought had nostalgic value or a personal connection, and often these things, like any version of this wonderful medium we're talking about, you can keep a bottle cap or a rock. Obviously, has a spirit in it if you had time with it. These things. So yeah, these printed items, some of them are like that, and some of us are feeling that. Again, I'm coming from a few different areas of interest, and so we're making them as an art object, but often as a retail object or an item to buy cheap still and get like value for money for the consumer who at this stage, 2000, 2001, you could go and find almost anything at a place like Polyester. You could find a bootleg of the rarest, strangest underground stuff, or you could find one from your neighborhood that was, really just genuine, heartfelt goodness.
Yeah.
And be like $5. It was very good times.
Yeah. And it's the whole DIY culture. Like, we just want to make it because we want to make it. And if we want to make it, hopefully other people want to consume it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in consuming. So, yeah, me and my friends were like, so I'm still working. I worked as a cook. I worked as in quite a lot of different trades, but I'm still working like a day job. But me and my friends put together this anthology. It's quite a hit. I do the quote because I'm like, looking back, I think we printed 1,000 copies, but we sold a lot of them. And we're
talking color, or is it black and white?
It's an anthology. So it's a collection with black and white insides, but the cover was screen printed. So at this time at my studio, I'm into screen printing. So, I've got a partner who's making like horticulture, like one-off item clothing, beautiful fashion items or interesting items. And we've got a screen printing sink and a setup and stuff. So I'm printing the covers. We're also really into like thrift stores, op shop stuff. And we've got like boxes of like old National Geographic and all that sort of pulp press stuff. And so this anthology, we're like making... we're screen printing the front, we're putting on cutout bits, and we've got like the stencil press. I'm finding always machines, I'm into that. I think partly with cooking and stuff, you're into tools and a toolkit. And so each one's numbered. And so we made quite a lot of these by hand. And so I think the person in the shop, they're probably, very affordable, have got this jam-packed as much as you could photocopy without binding them, just so they're just stitched, stapled.
Yeah.
With a long arm, with a card cover, all the cards like recycled, found out of bins. I love exploring them, looking through, places. So I've got all this pile of paper.
Everything's a one of one then, basically, because it's not going to be exactly the
they're
same. They're
editioned. Yeah, so they're these little editioned objects. This is pure evil, we called it. And so we've made this anthology, and it's like, the Polyester's like, we need more. And it's going great. So we're like, wow, we're making some money off this. Right. Like, we should do more of this. We'll write, we'll start writing letters, and we've got more people, and we've got support to make more of the anthologies.
Polyester couldn't have moved 1,000 copies. You've got other stores as well, or you're just selling them out of your car boot?
There's definitely other stores, but I feel like, but we did maybe not 1,000 at once.
Okay.
So we ended up doing 1,000, but I feel like the first run was 100.
Right.
Then we did 200. But we also did 5 editions. Each one's a little different. Still have all of these. I should have brought some of these, but I brought some things for you today, more recent stuff.
Yep.
But
that kicks off your love for it, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, keep me on track.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, but so that is, all of a sudden you've gone from doing the paste up stuff to doing something that you can physically hand to somebody that has a marketability, and that changes your whole sort of thought process?
Kind of. I feel like then we okay, so part of it's also like working with different people, this interest, this culture. And so meeting printers, so I met a local printer, and we make another edition that's perfect bound. It's more like, this is like 2002 by then.
Right.
And, desktop publishing's accessible. So we're talking about it's photocopying on a more interesting paper, like a recycled paper, something more tactile. So imitating books, and you're making books with interesting covers still, but they're wraparound and we fold them on there. We don't print them all by hand. But we're meeting the printer, we're going to talk to them, and we're learning. I know some stuff with printing as well. We're learning stuff just like yourself, where the more you do, you get better at it. You've got interests. Just like yourself when you're talking about the setup here. I love how you just like improvise and learn as you make your shows.
Hardest thing to do is start.
Yes.
And you've got to start something.
That's right. And that's it. And so each time we're doing one of these collections, we're learning something, we're making these books, and then they're selling more, and then we're sending them abroad. The mail's still reasonable. And so, yeah, I really got into that. That's where I started to like think, when I started and I moved to the city, that was my idea, is to be working in this field, in this philosophy, or making art all the time. And so that was one of the areas I started to go in. We did a show at City Lights. I thought, I'll approach them. We'll do a comic show there. We used the light boxes to show off the comic art. It seemed appropriate. I think they'd just done like a show on Invader, that incredibly prolific French artist. And I just learned so much. Once we put up that show at City Lights with the Pure Evil, I just saw these crossovers with like the postering and public space and the enjoyment of sharing art and the connection with different groups, people coming together and feeling really healthy about it.
Yeah.
Absolute thrill. I get goosebumps still,
And it must
reminded.
For sure. And it must have been like a thrill to post some of those editions overseas as well, to know you've got a market all over the globe.
Yeah, there's, so we're talking, there was this magazine called Fact Sheet 5. Maybe some of your listeners have heard of it. It was basically like a trading post for stores that would take stuff.
Oh, wow.
We got a few reviews, and then there's this thing called the Comics Journal, which is an incredible resource and dedicated group from Fantagraphics, one of the cores of this sort of culture that is all over it. That sort of stuff helped a lot with getting it out there. At the time, the 2000s, the distribution was pretty good. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I did a business course in running this stuff and worked out more on, distributing it. Where am I going with this? Comics, yes, we're making anthologies. 2000s are up to now.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, we're at there.
Are you still out painting and doing stuff?
Yes, so I'm, what am I doing? I'm not doing Mr. Squiggle anymore, but similar. I'm still doing anonymous shit. So I used to be just writing poetry. So I'm a cook, and I'm walking home from work often with a can in my bag still. I feel like the cans come into it at City Lights again. I probably wasn't using aerosol much up until being part of that studio again, and I'm postering. I feel like when we did the launch, the show Represents with City Lights, I put up a poster. So this is in Hosier Lane. At the time, it's just a buff council protected zone, pretty much, as they're building what's known as the Federation Square, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm putting up some posters, and we're getting in trouble for it, even though the show and the gallery's saying, just put them up, don't worry about it. And someone's taken them down, and we're getting in trouble. And then we decide the posters are meeting so many good people coming through at this time, already starting to, dropping slaps and writing messages, whatever you want to call them, all over the things that aren't being removed, the no parking signs, that sort of gear. Eventually just start drawing on the wall. We're like, they're just going to take it down tomorrow anyway. They're painting over everything, and there's people already starting to paint. And I start to get inspired to get a Guernsey or a name and write with my poetry. I'm like walking home from work and I'm writing, I think there was lots of anonymous ones we're doing, but one that stuck was like this Braddock, which was the character in my comics. Mm-hmm. And it was like, have you ever heard of Bob Dobbs?
Bob Dobbs. No.
Heard of Bob Dobbs, anyone? It's like this marketing, it's like a joke, a very terrible version of advertising. Mm-hmm. And it was the every person, it was American advertising, right? So again, like Mad Magazine or something, it's coming from Manhattan, I believe, and advertising as this pipe smoking dad who could take care of it and just was trustworthy. And it was used, I think, as a generic version. And I don't know if they even had a name, but it was like free, like from the graveyard of advertising or cut and paste or clip art in the 70s, maybe 60s, 70s, like Cigarette Time.
Yep.
And so there's somewhere in these thrift store finds or whatever, I'd found this like nice 70s book that had like advertising icons and all these logos. It was like, fuck yeah, like $5 for this book. And then at the back, it had like anonymous ones that we don't know who did the art, and they're free to use. And there's these odd ones, and there's like Bob. But I don't know what they call it. They just had this guy with the... So Bob Dobbs, if you look it up, there's the Church of Subgenius. Mm-hmm. And I think I discovered this Paul Mavrides, is like an American artist who in the 80s, I'm not entirely sure, but there's still, I feel like Paul Mavrides, really well known. Did a lot of interesting stuff that was, I guess, countercultural fine art, and what a lot of things turned into with subversive activity. So it could mean a few different things.
Mm-hmm.
The Church of Subgenius used Bob Dobb as their icon for people to slack off, quit their job, and throw capitalism out the door. And it was sort of like a multiple layered joke.
Right.
So
Kind of
next-
like the Uncle Sam, but in a different way. Like it was kind of an emblem, but to go against it? No?
Nah.
No?
Well, the
Okay.
Subgenius, you have to look it up.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We can go with that. But
Okay.
I feel like this book had Bob, which I'd heard of through Paul Maveridge, who was basically a comic book artist from the underground.
Mm-hmm.
I think that some of these logos are just used. Nowadays I don't even know where to.
But they become parodies of
start?
themselves almost.
Yeah, so it was like someone had used it in advertising but didn't want to take credit for it.
Right.
They're like the Marlboro Man more so.
Okay, yeah, okay,
But maybe
yeah.
Bob, or whatever that was called originally,
Yeah.
was selling, I don't know, pipe tobacco.
Yeah, okay.
But maybe they went broke and it doesn't matter. The copyright was gone. They just, illustrators weren't, they were just hired for whatever.
Yeah.
They just do the next illustration, whatever. So next to Bob's this Braddock. Braddock was selling shirts for people who had lost an arm in the war or whatever.
Wow.
Braddock's is like a cracker. It's got an eye patch and this fucking handlebar mow and this awesome haircut. And you're like, this is my comics.
Yeah.
Somehow Braddock became this brand that we grabbed. Anyway, what was I getting to? Am I still drawing? I'm writing on walls. Yeah, I love, public space and enjoying human activity and seeing how someone danced in this corner. And I'm writing, Braddock is rich, but Braddock has no money. I'm frustrated with my job. I've had enough. I've been cooking for years, and I'm enjoying the city still, but I gotta earn a living, do my thing. And I'm writing, Braddock is lost, but Braddock has found you. I'm just making stuff up, and I'm still laughing at the I guess with a little bit of that subversive element, and the joy of poetry and how writing. In general, is something you should have all the time. You should always carry a notebook.
Yep.
And when you're walking home, you should always carry a can. I encourage everybody to do this.
Everybody, yeah.
And if you can travel by foot, it's just as healthy to write with walls.
Yeah. But I'm guessing at this point in time, you're writing stuff that you even don't really know. You're doing it a bit tongue-in-cheek. You're letting the viewer take their own meaning from it.
They're low-key as well. They're not like huge things.
Yeah.
They're often on the back of something. They're near other marks, There was quite a few things like that at that time in the city, like shop till you drop, and just things that were it was a time. Things were changing a lot, and certainly the internet was taking away some of that space, and there was areas that nothing was happening.
Yep.
There was more drawing in them, and certainly downtown.
Yep, for sure. So then the production and the zines and the publications keep rolling. You're painting.
Yeah.
Where do you go from there? So we're getting early 2000s now.
Early 2000s, and lots happening. So there's this crossover. There's things are blowing up. You've got City Lights are starting to do like workshops and ways of like doing stuff together. We're workshopping together. So jamming on a page, we're jamming on walls, we're doing projects. I
Still in the polyester space.
So polyester, I actually move into City Lights. I move into 3000 postcode. Feeling good. That's the moral fiber of this show, right? Come on, if you can get some of that in your blood, it's great.
Yeah,
Isn't it? It's a wonderful feeling.
for sure.
City living. So I'm in there. I'm still working in the city, right? So I'm working. I'm a good cook, but I'm fed up and I'm working nights. But I'm saving. I've got also this business hustle. I'm also working. I work mornings, so I'm pretty wired at this stage. I'm painting a lot at night and drawing and having fun and collecting stuff. But it enables me to earn more, send stuff around. 2000s. I move abroad. I moved to Canada, so I wanted to get closer to New York maybe, but I like Canada. I feel a bit safer. I lived in Toronto for a while. I lived there for a couple of years.
Yep.
It was a great comic scene going there. So I went and I had a publishing interest. I went over there, didn't do that. My work wasn't going to fit. I couldn't change it, and I still never released that work. But basically, my comics were becoming more long form. I'm a huge reader. I love comics as well.
Yep.
And they're not only an introduction. We talk about graphic novels or the graphic storytelling. It's just a wonderful medium. And Toronto has this festival, Toronto Comics Arts Festival. I took the book there, the latest anthology from Melbourne, and I had this store with this group, Top Shelf, and this is my This is what I'm presenting. Like, what the fuck is this? It's filled with like graffiti writers, street artists, all sorts of different artists and comic artists and outside artists. You know, for want of a better term, we're talking about people who I've just pushed to print, and they've got their little section, like I say in these anthologies. I've got this book, it's called True Fantasy, and it's just this hand-bound tome of, I don't know, 40 artists or something. There's a lot of artists and a lot of handmade stuff, and the object's unsellable at a comics festival. And that's my Toronto story for you. I lived there for a while. I continue to work as a cook. I come back home.
So there was no market there because it was too avant-garde sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a nice way to summarize that. So yeah, we're talking 2000. I come back to this wonderful city like 2006 or something. It's all going on by then.
Street art's popping off like what would
That's the term.
Yeah. It's been bounded around. People are saying it now. Yeah.
I go back to family. There's always so many friends. I'm back into Hosier Lane. So I got a studio there. We're in the back of the Forum at this stage. My dear brother from another mother, Regan Tamanui, also known as Ha Ha, is got a studio in there. And we're renting it. We're like renting the studio, but we're swapping art. You know, originally it was trading art for the month.
Is he doing those stencils at that stage with the
Ha-Ha's
stuff?
prolific, and he's sort of like the center of these workshops, and like, oh, you can do a stencil, and he's just like reinventing stencils, maybe as far as I know, just from out of thin air. He's just on the spot layering it up and making stuff, you know, with probably from photos, but it's pretty analog. But yeah, 2006, 2007, it's really going off there. It's still really healthy. We're doing other shows. We're getting, you know, legal walls or different things. You know, there's not real. I'm still cooking. I'm not necessarily great at legal walls. I'm more abstract. I'm anonymous. I'm not interested in that branding or whatever.
But if you met other artists,
What a studio.
what would you say?
At the time,
Yeah.
I don't know, we'd just go hitting spots and we'd just enjoy hanging out. I don't know. I would meeting artists all the time.
But who would you say you were? If they say, oh, so what do you write, or what do you put up, or what do you?
It depends. I don't know. It's pretty vague. It really depends.
You'd be like, I do some poetry and some stuff, and
Yeah, I've met them in different areas. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, meeting other artists. I mean, just many people. I feel like there'd be versions of it. You know, we'd be painting in that area quite a lot for fun. There's so many people we'd meet. Often, so you know, one of the best friends I still have that I met, Nelio, a French artist. He's painting in that lane. This is like 2008, maybe. Like, what are you doing? This is like my backyard. You know, I got a studio at night. We're practicing a lot, or just painting. And often there, people coming through. By this time, that area is like, you know, people are bombing it in a true sense. You know, large throws like you want to see on a train line, because it's getting enough traffic with the gallery and stuff. Federation Square's built. There's a lot of traffic. As you know, it's a very famous area. Nelio's down there. He knows it's famous. He's come from France. You know, he's come from like Ardèche. He's come from an area around there somewhere. Actually, it's a small town, and he's heard. You know, probably like me when I'm going to Toronto. There's a scene happening for interesting art on the street, aerosol art, street art, graffiti, whatever. He's come and he's added to that, and me and my friends were kind of bullies, but we're kind bullies. I'm like, well, what are you doing here? Who are you? And he's like, I don't speak English. Like, how funny. You want to come and have a beer? And then, you know, because we know a lot of the locals, bars and everything, we're hanging out, which we paint a lot of the bars and all that as well.
Yep.
And we, you know, what would we say we do? We don't even need to. We're just drawing together and painting. And Nelly is one of those artists that I really clicked with, that just wants to explore. When you take the pen for a walk, the same way you would with paint, you might have a shape or a feeling. Or, you know, for a lot of people, you got your letters or your character or the thing that you're repeating, and then you evolve with it. The more space you get, and the shapes on the wall, then that speaks to you, and then you start to evolve with it.
Yep.
So it's a really good time for that, and meeting people like that in that area. I didn't need to say anything, or just work together.
They just knew, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing at that point, Melbourne is put on the map as a bit of an artistic hub. So people are coming here going, fuck, we've seen and heard that there's a bit going on, and they're seeking it out.
Always.
Yep.
I should say, you know, one of those fields I'm really interested in is music. You know? So when I'm coming here in the 90s as a young person, the music scene's incredible, still is, and it's known for that all over. So obviously, that's a big part of it. People moving here, but yeah, just like you say, it's a pool of people coming from all over the world, and yeah, they're now coming here for this street culture, graph culture, street art. I don't know, whatever you want to label it as, but it's active, and as I consider it, it's like a connection with people in a space that they can share. Yeah, it's like sports. Obviously it's athletic, painting outdoors in some ways, and it's very healthy. It's such an inspiring, well, maybe not inspiring, but it's a generous way to spend your time. So you're sort of painting together.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to get some dicks or people who just want to capitalize on it entirely. And you're going to get kind people who do that as well, and you learn so much. So beyond the studio university, then I'm just learning in laneways. 2000s was such a great time for learning in laneways.
Yep. And it wasn't overdone by that stage as well. Like now you see people going down Hosier Lane that don't have any artistic merit in their body that are trying to put some sticker up or something just to have done something in Hosier Lane. You're like, it's become like a novelty.
And I think maybe there was more lanes like that then. I feel like there's less in the city. That one is just too flooded. There's more people than ever interested.
Yep.
But I guess even my time in Toronto, and obviously I would go to New York a lot in those areas and getting a whiff, and I was still into painting, and whether it was outdoor and more traditional freights, or whether it was indoor and just like hanging out in good studios and all the things I'm interested in, I could see how it had a lot to do with grassroots and the culture that was less spoken about, the better. You don't want to spoil spots. You don't want to talk about it too much. And yeah, that area obviously is just spoilt.
Well, yeah.
Just done. It's just overbaked.
Yeah.
And those are sort of the end times. I guess by like
it's the beginning of the end.
2011, it was really like it was just like a shop in a way. City Lights is gone. It becomes we're all responsible. We're just going there all the time because it was easy to do, and the walls are quite high. So there's not many spots like that. There was a couple earlier on, earlier in the 2000s, mid 2000s. But yeah, where are we going with this? Then the comics. Then I'm like, that's my job. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing all sorts of illustrations.
Freelance or yeah.
I'm freelance with it. So I sort of set myself up a bit, and I'm making freelance stuff. Yeah, doing all sorts. I'm really interested, like I said, with like exploring and sharing and learning. So I'm traveling a bit more and learning from other people.
And the internet at this stage is making connecting with those people abroad a lot easier.
Exactly.
Because
Facebook, remember that?
Facebook, yeah, because people forget, because Instagram is so entrenched in our zeitgeist now.
Yeah.
Instagram didn't come on till like 2011 or something like that. Maybe 2013, 2014.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think you're right, 2013.
Yeah, so Facebook was the connection, and then maybe, a bit of whatever message boards or blogs or fucking forums people were using as well.
It makes such a difference though, doesn't it? Some of those forums is really interesting just for meeting and shooting the shit, play it off legit. You can meet on Facebook, but yeah, it was a really rich time, I feel like. I'm very grateful to have met a lot of close friends through that time.
It's the pen pal thing again, but with the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot quicker. And then by then you could just do it in your back pocket or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the comics and stuff, I feel like I started, I'm trying to make this interesting, where there was some transition. I'm doing a lot of everything at this stage. I'm doing shows, I'm doing books, like exhibitions. I'm doing lots of group activities.
Solo shows?
I'm in a studio. Am I doing solo shows? I feel like 2010 I did a show. I'm doing more like I did these shows where I went to South America when I was over living in Canada. And I got to be part of the Day of the Dead, the Dia de los Muertos. And I think I'm doing these shows where I got 100 skulls I made. I remember this one was quite ridiculous, maybe 2010. I've invited 100 friends, and I've made 100 skulls in my studio at this time, which is at my house. So at this stage, I've got a studio that I've built in the back, and I'm making skulls, and I'm giving 100 friends. So I'm pushing myself from the anthology to then make this collection of people, and getting everyone to decorate a skull. And it was just a very enriching activity to give them out to people, get them back, and display them. But yeah, so I'm doing a bit of everything. I'm crossing over these things. And I think maybe about that, I'm starting to do more like commissioned walls. I've learned a lot. my time in Hosey Land, I got to meet the great Phibbs, who's just like such can control master. And even though I'm trying to be ridiculous or abstract or experimental, still you're like admiring the way they can control, and you're getting some, more can control, like the things you can do with it, with your paint. And then it's getting more popular. Obviously the paint by 2007 is available and pretty reasonable. And I feel like there was quite a lot of group projects with City Lights that we learnt a lot.
Yep.
And I got to get pretty quick at painting. And so it was profitable to paint, commission jobs and stuff.
Yep.
So that's really, and I still do that today. I do commissions with paintings, commissions with illustrations, and I'm very grateful to have.
Were you honing your
different
style
links.
as well?
Different styles, but definitely what I'm honing is my attitude towards it. Is doing it because I want to do that, and making sure that I'm always working on stuff. I get up every day and work on something. I draw every morning, do at least one drawing, and just work on something all the time. And then when an opportunity arrives, or often they come all at the same time, then I'm able to do them easier. I don't have to sort of like think about it too much.
You don't have to switch on to work mode. You're already in it.
Yeah, you're already just sort of working. And there were drier times where there wasn't as many jobs, but you're continuing to work on stuff. And you've always got something to offer as well. Often, and I still, contribute to group displays and exhibitions for the whole idea that you meet other people. And, especially with younger souls, where you just you learn from them. You'll learn together.
Yeah. And then, at that point, people are coming into this scene that have come in to a street art scene. They're like, I want to be a street artist. Where you've been there, seen the scene evolve, and you were part of it. But now people are coming in going, I'm going to be a street art person, which changes the whole mentality as well.
Of course. But this is the thing that connects like graffiti and comics or hip hop even is in this country, a lot of people do it because they love it. And also like you're doing with like cultural investigation or anthropology on a true sense, is because you really want to hear these stories and you want to hang out with these people. You really want to try your lyrical content or your poems or your written stuff verbally, or I really want to put my pictures into print. I want to share them. Obviously there's tons of interesting artists or whatever you want to say that do this shit that no one's ever seen, and they keep it to themselves, and that's great too.
Yep.
It's all a wonderful thing to be part of.
Yep.
But for a lot of us, it's sharing it. And I think the connection is often that you're doing it because you love it. And especially, and we sort of touched on this, that living in so-called Australia is so far away. And even though it's just as cheap to go over to, it's pretty cooked now anywhere in the world. Obviously the world's on fire, but you go anywhere and you're there, you can be part of it. But we still live in a colony that's got a different perspective on a lot of this culture. And a lot of us have that connection that we love what we're doing. And people break through. And whether they come into it with like the intentions of like, this is just going to be my job. I'm going to go to university. I'm going to learn how to do this sort of trade, engineering with sound, or I'm going to learn how to do painting on surfaces that are crap or whatever.
Yep.
Or, getting lifts and all these things that are wonderful extensions of that culture that's, hanging out together and on urban environments. That's the connection, I think, is that we all do it passionately.
Yeah. And I think now that when we were talking about earlier, it wasn't legitimized as a career path to be an artist. I think now it is. My son's 6. If he said, I want to be an artist, I would definitely push him down there. AI is not going to take your job, but if you want to be a mouse keyboard tapper, AI is probably going to take your job. I feel like now it's more of a path that probably of any other time in our society, it's a legitimate thing that people can push to do as a full-time gig.
Absolutely. And the feelings that you get from it, most importantly, and the purpose is the first part. So if your son at 6, which I'm sure a lot of your people who come on here and friends that you talk with, at 6 feel that, it's a real thing. And whichever road they go on, whether they're going to do it in what's called a cop-out over, it's impossible. If they're passionately doing it, they have a purpose, it's awesome. Yeah. And seeing down the track, it's such an interesting subject, isn't it?
We don't know where it's
going.
Like, I don't even know. And as a dad, I'm like, I want to incubate any kind of passion that he's got. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
but I also don't want to push him down a path that I think is somewhat doomed.
Yeah.
If someone said they want to be a creative writer now, I'd be like, that's you that you're going out on a limb. Do you know what I mean? There's a
Yeah.
lot of different things that I can see are probably going to be very hard to monetize in the. Not to say it won't happen, but we're in a very interesting time when it comes to which career path you would take.
And certainly keeping up your interest in it is what's important, right? Because maybe I think this is the value of wearing many hats, and it's nice that you say that if you recognize that, because I was certainly told that you want to be a master of something, or what's that term? You're like a jack of all trades but a master of none, which I don't think is true. I think, well, with longevity and purpose and passion for this creative outlet, and having a creative outlet to start with, that's a privilege. But then being able to follow it and continue on different fields is really important. I think some of them, they're not going to lead towards, a sort of a value and a system that we require, that is financial support, but they may be important in other versions of mental health or physical strength, things that can be really important, all this sort of stuff that I love, performance and public space and sharing time together really help with the general spirit.
For sure. And I think sometimes it's important to not put all your eggs in one basket. You've obviously managed to juggle it to the point that it doesn't affect your overall art output. But some people, I think, that try and turn their passion into a money full-time job, the art suffers. So sometimes it's better to have that 9 to 5 or the money-making spin. So then the art and the creative shit that you do isn't affected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I totally agree. I mean, there's many versions of it. There can be people who are the master of one thing, and it's still all.
But you're putting all your eggs in one basket, though, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? Which makes pivoting very hard. Like, say you've gone all in on programming and coding and SEO, and now with the AI algorithms, But if you've got the graphic design thing that you can pivot into, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the research part of it that having those different outlets, I guess it comes naturally, but being interested in other things, maybe that's part of being a 70s kid too. Maybe today there are so many interests, it's kind of another issue, And whether this show is about comparing the past to the future, but I guess when you get someone my age and you're asking questions and it's just like where you're at and where you're going, I'm very grateful that I can have those different paths, because I'm never bored of it, because art is still just a job, regardless of the amount of money you earn. Even if you don't earn much from it, if it's your purpose, it's really awesome. And there's not, if someone's purpose is I don't know, buffing, cleaning. I'm just looking over here at the roll. I'm like, and someone's out and they just love beige or whatever it is that they're doing. That's it. That's their purpose. That's their battle. But for me, I'm grateful. It's nice to sit here with you and
for sure
talk about it.
But we need that yin and the yang as well.
Yeah.
Because if everyone was creative, if the people didn't like beige, then it would be too colourful. You need this duality,
We were talking about this on the drive up here with how the buff can be as interesting sometimes if it's layered, because if you know enough, if your research or your interest is studying that, and on how that conversation, if you like, or that invoice that is on the wall has been written and checked in, that there's still some other marks to be made, it can be sometimes just as interesting. No one wants to, most people like us who have creative interests or interests within anthropology or society and stuff, don't want to go to a city that's blank or just new and fabricated. But if you see it and it's buffed, and there's layers where you can see someone has been dancing there or added to it, and then someone else has had to paint over it for whatever reason they consider it, distracting, and that language is there. It's another story again.
It's got to keep moving. And I know, like, it happens every few years where they'll go through, say, Hosier and just, I think last time it was blue or grey or whatever. And you're like, yeah, cool, start again. It should happen,
Sure. Yeah, and spots like that, it's interesting all around the world. I think that's one of the larger, longest standing spots now in the world that still has photographic history, and it hasn't changed too much. Although I don't follow its history that much. I was in that spot for a while. It was a great studio. But yeah, those sort of legal spots or that come and go as legal spots around the world, they're not that big.
No.
Another one I was painting at somewhere in Portugal years ago with some friends, and it's really fun. I'm like, there's not much room. I don't want to paint over that. It looks like it was just done yesterday, and there's not that much. At least that spot has like, you can find a spot.
Yep.
Even though I don't think there's any code there at all anymore, but it's a pretty big spot. It's definitely a highlight still of the city. Obviously, it's a contested conversation of the city and
I think
why people come here.
If it's somebody's entry point into understanding art and culture in Melbourne, I think that's cool. But when people think that is it, then I'm kind of like, that's a bit sad, because there's so many other walls and interesting spaces around Melbourne that you could go and see rather than go to see some shit at Tosie Lane. Like, if it's an entry point, cool, but there's much more shit you could go see. I'd rather people go and have a look at the vault, like the Yellow Peril. Go and look at that. Like, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean?
There could be so much more done with some history down there to point people towards other things. Yeah. It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Have you ever been at like Section 8 where they bring the walking tours down, or you're painting or something, and people look at you like you're a zoo animal? They take photos of you for drinking
Section
a beer
8.
at Section 8 when they're doing the walking tours. It's funny, man.
Baz and those guys did such a great thing. That was
Amazing.
about 2010. That was when it was really we're just talking about that era. It's just so rich. There's so many good stories.
And do you know what?
Yeah.
I reckon they've moved where the actual container bar was, but other than that, I don't think it's really changed since like 2008 maybe.
And I feel like they still have that policy. I think their policy was like no suits.
Yeah,
because
no
by then
ties,
there was a Woolies. There was lots of people living in the city.
Yep.
It was attractive, like you were saying. Like it was part of your folio. It was like Manhattan. Like you had the bachelor pad or whatever. People had their party apartment. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know. It's definitely a lot more people. You're like, where are these people coming from? Oh, they live here.
Yeah, and St. Jerome's was still kicking then.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. That's where I met my dear Gwenny, my
There you
partner.
go. Oh,
And I feel like I recently did a commission where an old friend had painted there as well, Hero.
Yep.
And I forgot that I brought stuff on.
Yeah.
I wanted to show you something.
Yeah,
so talk about small press. How's the timing? How are we going here?
Man, we've done just over an hour, but there's no rush.
I worked with Section 8. We did a newspaper.
Oh, cool.
I wanted to bring some recent things because we're talking about small press, and I just love it, and I love sharing it with you. I brought something for you, which is a book with 100 artists.
Wow.
Funny enough, we're talking about the Dia de los Muertos. I think the show I did with the 100 skulls I mentioned was called Laughing Skulls. Mm-hmm. The book there was not as many, but this one was human work. It's sort of on the subject of AI. So this sorts of things I still do today. So this one is like, I asked 100 friends and people's art that I enjoy to redraw a character of mine. So these stories I'm telling you, I'm like drawing poetry. I'm also drawing like this character, which has a mask. It's in there.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And I like to draw you in there.
Okay.
Where do I go with this? This character is just a way. I love drawing. Like I said, I draw every day. I draw all the time, but figurative drawing. Mm-hmm. I got a little tired of the detail and drawing. I don't know, the detail basically. I like to draw quickly and often.
Yep.
And I started. Yeah, there's a little bit of a history in there as well.
Uh huh.
And
The evolution of the character. Yep.
yeah. And it got known. I think I've just done it so many times. Mm-hmm. And so I asked people to redraw their version of it as a worker. Yeah, somewhere along the line I called it a worker. Uh-huh. Mainly because it seemed, someone just asked about it. What do you call this thing with the mask? But yeah, I simplified from the detailed style of more traditional portraiture, or just basically drawing somebody.
Yep.
To just drawing their posture and trying to get as much feeling into the vibe. Yeah, you'll know. You'll have friends.
No, I know a few people have been on the show, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Benny.
I'm working on a second one at the moment.
Awesome.
So it's really enjoyable because, again, it's on this subject of meeting new people, getting to know them more, and collaborating on something. There's a lot of fun in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's 100 versions in there. Playing, you sort of mentioned, talking about artificial intelligence or the robot and AI and how, this fear and how it's going to fuck us up entirely. That human work is really what art is. It is handmade objects often, but it can be all sorts of stuff. Obviously, it's a three-letter word that can describe all sorts of dreams.
Yep, for sure.
But I did focus on like put yourself at work Yeah, and show me. Yeah, you got to have them on the show, right?
Yeah, I've tried.
That's
She
right.
won't do it.
Yeah. So, and I also do so the last anthology was I also collaborate. So I work with other communities. This one is friends in Portugal, and I often will work with. So this one has short stories. This is a classic sort of budget-friendly anthology. I don't know if you can see this on your.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like comics in the true sense of it's a novel format. It's really easy. You can just read it anywhere. It's cheap. They're designed to sell. It has a barcode. It's sold in. Readings is mostly my favorite sort of outlet for it. Paperback books locally and internationally at great comic shops. I'm doing a new one at the moment, but this one's Portuguese art. It's alternative comic art scenes from Australia and Portugal. So I'm just connecting not only with friends here, but with like-minded artists
For sure.
in other countries.
Because you've got something coming up in Jakarta, I believe.
That's right. So the new Opposite. So I started this project about your scene, and so a lot of this stuff we're talking about is community, is groups, is your class. I don't know, but scene's another word for it. What's the as people say, what's the hip hop scene like, and etc. Right?
Yep.
The comic scene is I'm just grabbing a few and people I want to meet and talk to and work with more. So that's the new one is coming out. It's a bit more like the other book that I've just handed you, that size.
Yep.
But it's 200 pages of complete budget goodness.
So this one doesn't have a barcode.
So that one's just made. This is more for the artists.
Okay.
So this is the joy, and this is why small press and publishing is such a great medium for me and for others, is because I get to get hands-on with the printer because we have so many availabilities. These are printed locally. Mm-hmm. And some, like the one that doesn't have a barcode, obviously you can print enough for a project where, like the one I mentioned to you with Laughing Skulls, they're just made for the artists and they're promotional versions, right? So I've just done a few hundred and they're made to just give to the artists this is what we did together. And then to share with people like yourself who can talk about it and so on.
Awesome.
But it's more like an art object that's for you to take home, like a record or a print or
So they're
something.
not for sale.
They're not for sale.
Wow.
I have sold them at fairs, right?
But they can't go on your website and buy one. It's for the artist.
That's right.
Right.
They were done for a
thank
show
you.
as well.
Yeah.
I'll draw on it for you because I
Yeah.
know you love that. I can see from your fine collection here, man.
Yeah, true.
I work with other publishers that I love as well. So this is one that's Australian artists. This is one of my favorite publishers in Europe, the Koosh publishers. And these guys, they print this wonderful format of smaller books, again, affordable, and they're packed anthologies. They do, I think, 2 anthologies a year, packed with
Is that A5? What
short
size
stories.
is
It's about A5.
Because is it that our paper size here in Australia is
Smell that, Munkin Press. So that's printed in Europe with Australian artists, so-called Australia. All these fine artists making comics, again, that I'm selecting that I consider to be relevant on an international sort of stage.
for sure. Is our paper size European, or what size is A5, A4? Is that?
Format. You're going to get lost.
But is it European? Because it's different to the US, isn't it?
Yes. But I guess there's many versions of format, and I think somewhere along the line, possibly with digital printing, formatting became unified. Recently I did this thing in Belgium. I digress because someone had told me that their way of looking at it was an American thing, was formatting was made to just make it more profitable so that things had to be of a certain format, and that way they'd fit onto shelves and they'd be easier to print.
Right.
But format is obviously up to the producer and the designer, right? The bookmaker you can finish the book how you like. They're all finished and trimmed and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you talk about a photocopier, there's different format in US,
Yeah.
I got foolscap, I think, which is similar to maybe A4. So when you're making a
But I think
zine
it's
or
a bit
something.
longer, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget. Honestly, off the top of my head, some of these formats. So these are more zines. I do also, this is like a screen print. This is more recent. This is a screen printed cover, risographed inside like a poster mag.
Awesome.
So I'm looking here.
Yeah.
Similar to some of the stuff I was talking about in the 90s, like just made as an art book. It's a fine line between a zine and an art book nowadays, but they're signed and written by the artist, and there's a bit of an interview with the artist. This is a dear friend, Fitri, who've collaborated and basically make these books on a limited edition to talk about their art practice. But yeah, this is Aussie format. This is A4, but we've just trimmed. The cover is large, it's screen printed. And this is similar. This is almost A5. We'll just trim it. It's slightly trimmed. I guess this stuff is, you can get deep. It's like nerdy stuff, isn't it, with formatting? I guess it goes to any trade or tool loving when you talk about tattooists. And I love this field and people. And there's so many different versions of tattooing, obviously, but it's all still just ink under the skin. And these are still just like print on paper. But yeah, the format is the joy. So I worked with newsprint for a while, and it was really about working with the news. The place that publishes is there's a Tamanui. Marbo. The joy for me is working with the printer. These guys, for example, here's a yarn like with. News bulk, like for me as a comic nerd or loving that shit when I was younger, like I mentioned Robert Crumb and seeing some of that American or any comics that were like pulped in that cheap version that ages disgracefully and stinks and is really, after a few reads, you just want to trash it, right? But the people who keep them and they're really hard to keep in good nick. Printing stuff like that in this country is pretty rare, because of our distro, obviously. I just wanted to work with the newsprint and this group, they do like the Greek newspaper, maybe, and the Chinese newspaper, for communities reading that language, living in Melbourne. And I learned about gang printing, which is when they're doing, so this format is the size of the Greek paper. And so when they're doing the Greek paper, like 750,000 or whatever the number was, hundreds of thousands of copies, because it's a way larger audience. A lot of Greeks in Melbourne, right?
A lot.
I can say that. I'm part Greek. And then when they're doing the Chinese paper, which of course I think is an even bigger run, it's this size, which is another format, obviously, but coming from the same press. The gang printing is when you put on the end. So they're doing, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of copies. I'm only doing a few thousand copies. I want to put our plates on the end, but talking in the broker language with the printer, which I'd meet someone who was a broker and I'd take notes, which you can probably just, get a YouTube tutorial on if you were interested in printing this stuff, but I just want to give you a story. We'd go into the printer. I have to be able to, not waste their time and efficiently place the job so that they don't work with artists per se. It's not that sort of environment when they're printing. It's a factory. And these are a while ago when I was printing these. Making the gang printing was affordable so that they could put these on the end and I'd be getting them at a more affordable unit.
And so you're just tacking them on essentially.
Yeah. I brought you one of those as well because I know you're like, you've got a great collection. There's nothing like a good archive. 3,000 archives is going to be pretty sweet, right, Josh?
Yeah, it's going to be somewhat of a museum one day, I reckon.
Yeah, it's a good...
With just all different subcultures and all sorts of stuff, And
so all these sort of projects that I do, I call... The project, this is what I left out. It's not so much branding, but it's like my philosophy with the collaborative projects. The name Silent Army came together. The Silent Army projects. It's like silent, like the act of reading or writing or drawing and making lots of this stuff. And the army part is sort of like as many people as possible. I want to work with as many people and meet and
unify.
Yeah.
Strength together.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nice way to put it. These Silent Army projects, often I give them away or they're promotional or they're within the community. But like I said, some of them are available and often we do a pre-order. Stuff like that. Okay. I love pre-orders. I personally love buying a record where I'm a collector as well. I got a problem. Then you buy stuff where you get a special version. There's got this and that in it. I think our city, Melbourne loves this stuff.
Exactly.
So I'm very grateful. And the reason I pulled out this little box that we brought is because I did some records, right?
Yeah.
We worked with Paul, who was on your show.
Yes.
And the incredible press that is Zenith. And then I wanted to go in there. And I feel like I had the opportunity. And the reason I mention this is because one of the guys I met at Jerome's, going back here.
Yeah.
Hiro,
Yep.
2-1. Mm-hmm. The fabulous Japanese Australian artist.
Yes.
And I printed a record. So I printed this record series with visual artists who also make sound.
Awesome.
So Hiro and David, Ghost Patrol. Everyone knows David's work. Mm-hmm. These two wonderful artists. We did a project with them together. Silent Army Recordings a few years ago. I haven't got any of these left, but these were like a pre-order.
Yep.
But geez, they were fun.
Yeah.
So beyond format, I got to play with the vinyl format and do locked grooves. And Paul and the gang, they were nice enough to let me do these on the records where I have a locked groove. So when it gets to the end of the record, there's a loop. How enjoyable. It was so much fun.
Wow.
So each of the records has a booklet. And if you got the special early pre-orders, you got a whole bunch of goodies from the artists. And it came, we printed up these fine little books, different books that came with each one.
Awesome. You've
Yeah.
got me thinking now because I'm about to dip my toe into this record that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so not
I believe
my
there's a
record-
second group now in Melbourne, right?
yeah, there's a few getting around, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's very interesting. I love that idea of the locked groove because thinking about it from the hip hop perspective,
Yeah.
you could have an instrumental that loops at the end where people could rap over it,
I've got a couple. I've got a lot of locked groove records at home.
Yeah.
I've definitely got one that's more like, I guess, okay, techno or just more like house music.
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely beat ones. I've got some that have one side that'll have some beats so you can try it out yourself.
But it would be hard, like, because you'd only have a certain amount of time that you could. It'll loop. It'll go forever, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to. It skips back to the.
You're remembering I guess that when they stop the pressing, there's a needle going
Yeah.
on a spiral.
Yeah.
And as it comes to the center, you ever got a record where it actually hasn't been done and it's just going into the paper?
Yeah, and it just goes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it's their job when they're pressing these is to stop it somewhere.
Yeah.
But they can stop that after one rotation if they like. And there are some records. There's a wonderful one by this group, Tape Projects, I worked with years ago in this city. Now defunct, but they did one that was double-sided locked groove records, Tape Projects. I forget the name of the release. Incredible, but yeah, maybe there's like 3 chapters. It's like genre or labeling, or it's a type of music or production music. More like, some was beat driven, some was more experimental or field recordings, some was spoken or whatever. Wonderful project. But yeah, the locked groove stuff, if you look into it,
I will.
you probably got something in your collection.
Oh, there'd be something around. Yeah.
But there's definitely, I guess it's a slowing down analog vibe of playing a couple at the same time, which is pretty fun. Mm-hmm. It can enhance a extra activity within the mind.
Yes.
Oh,
That's all right.
and the record thing was really fun. So I
Yeah.
brought some of the recent projects. Yeah, I did a record with Tamanui, who I mentioned before, one of my favorites, and him ranting. And this is one of my own acts that I did, Bogano, which was some of my music, which you can look up. I think you will like that.
And so you did all that design and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, where am I going with this? Show and tell.
Well, yeah.
I noticed you have a bit of show and tell on here. So this is where I first started. It was because somewhere along the line, my projects took me to Timor-Leste, East Timor.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been there?
No.
Not many people have, right?
No. It's not the highest on my vacation
It
list.
should be.
Okay.
Beautiful place. Wonderful people. I was part of an animatism art project. Yeah, somewhere when I was telling you some of my history, maybe like 2013, I got invited to go over with Melbourne University to a project with animatism art. You know what an animist is?
Yeah, well, break it down for us. Pretend I don't know.
Well, when we talk about religion, before we talk about Christianity, I'm like, it's a bit cooked. I think some of the earlier versions of it was the understanding of nature having a connection. And I think an animist, in a way, which is still a very popular spiritual belief, is the foundation that trees have a life as well and a spirit. And animals have just as much conscious activity as we do. And that we're all connected as animals.
It's more of a spiritual...
Well, I guess like a lot of faith, like it gives people reason and kindness for nature as well.
Yep.
And that was the project anyway. It was about artwork sort of growing like that, like Not so much as like, damn, that's like so, I get the feeling from this art. It's more like collectively the art's being made.
Yep.
And it was also a lot about, like I was saying, I'm into education, or more like being able to work with people and learn from each other. And the more time you spend with people, you start to naturally work together or learn. And doing it in other cultures, especially if there's someone in between who may be able to help with some of the language. Or, like I said, with Nelio, you spend enough time together where you start to just speak to each other without words.
And that happens, the art and it breaks the language barrier.
Yeah, of course. And that's why it seems such a privilege to be part of that. And so going to Timor, where the culture, even though it's so nearby, I certainly lived in North Queensland when I was younger, and I sensed some of that with time, because we did Aboriginal studies when I was a kid at school there, and we spent a lot of time in different countries, outdoors and learning old stories and learning about Indigenous technology. And in the 80s, it was quite a common thing. I think it was one of the biggest, it still is probably one of the biggest sort of art industries, of so-called Australia, right? And so going to Timor, I was like, whoa, this is such ancient knowledge. It was I just really blew my mind. And while I was there, I think there's like 12 of us from collected through some people through the uni, and I was picked up as someone who could draw on the spot. I was doing a lot of portraits, and someone who could pick up a can and paint and improvise, and also loved to share. So we also did workshops on workshops, because a lot of orphans. If anyone looks up the story of Timor, you're going to see all sorts of convoluted versions, but a lot of people died. So we're working with a lot of young kids who haven't got much around them and much versions of hope. Like I told you, I'm filled with hope. But I'm there, and I'm there, and I've been there a couple of times. So grateful. And I went over the animatism, and our group, there's some visual artists. There's a lot of people more on connecting, and there's also people on healing or working on some of the greater projects, sanitary things, that sort of stuff. And there's some music guys, and there's a guy who I bonded with. My partner's background's from Chile, and one of the guys on this project was from Chile as well. And Brian, what a guy! He's making music, and he's bringing his culture forth through his Chilean background through these workshops with like sample pads and beatboxing sort of stuff, and it just naturally brings rhythm, and we all love this sort of stuff. And then later, after we've done our days, we have these great long days at this sort of Ati Morris is called, a studio in Dili, the sort of capital of Timor-Leste, is having dinner and hanging out, and we have some beers. I love to have some beers, and I'm rapping away some bullshit with Brian, because he's still beat making, because that's what he does. He's passionate. He's like, man, what is up? You are nut. What about your culture? Where are you from? I'm like, culture? Where am I from? I'm like, I don't know. Because he's like, I'm Latino, He's like, I'm a Latino culture. I'm like, well, I'm from Australia. I guess I'm a Bogan man. It's like, what is a Bogan?
What is a Bogan?
And so we smash out this group, Bogano, the Latino and the Bogan.
Wow.
So that's why we first did a record. So these are sort of things I want to press. We pressed it on vinyl with a locked groove. Somewhere it's in there. Yeah, so it's got like the record, and then it's got the little booklet.
Oh, look at that.
And so, I'm the visual artist.
Yeah.
Ryan's done all the music on here. Top notch.
There's the Alfred E. Newman throwback.
Yeah, there you go. And this is actually quite a crucial moment for me passionately. I did play the Tote, which was always on my list of got to get in the green room of the Tote proper.
Yeah.
Played the Tote a few times. We call it like, I don't know, punk electro if you need a label, but really enjoyable. Rhythmic, like cumbia, like 150 beats per minute.
Wow.
With this bogan telling you where it's at, like a woke bogan going, I just realized we're fucked. I just realized this ain't the lucky country, I'm not going to do an impression now. It has been years ago, actually, but this is a recent pressing, and that's what I got to do with Xanath. These sorts of things are very fun.
For sure. And with I'm just picking your brain.
Please.
With the 7 inches,
Yeah.
they are obviously cheaper to make, but you've still got to do the same sort of minimums as the 12 inches.
Very reasonable there. I feel like I forget on some of the technicalities because these were so these are all visual artists and myself is sort of like a collaborative layout, pre-ordering. And so I feel like, it was very reasonable.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you want to do records, if you got a connection with Paul, you want to talk to them, obviously.
I've got his number and we've spoken.
Because I think it's about the time between you sending them the stuff.
Yeah.
Because if they can do their gang printing, they can fit it onto a big run maybe. Or, they've got someone working through, I don't know how they work there. I'm sure they're just...
Yeah, I know someone else who's working there now as well. So we've got So
these were more about... these were, I think, 150. And maybe at the time they had a bundle sort of offer. But it was done all sort of together.
Yep.
I think over 18 months, 2 years at the most. And I only did 4, but I'm really glad to have it in the sort of discography.
And it's all about leaving something physical behind. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's what, and I think the people that get print media, people that get the collecting, the record culture, they understand.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to leave something physical behind, whether it's a book, whether it's a record, whether it's a piece of art,
And I've got to say, like, if you have the time in your life, and this is one of the joys when you get to an age, and I'm very grateful again, I want to remind myself, but when I get those times where I got a couple of hours, I'm going to pick up some of these items, and it's just like, I can feel the stories in there. This one I just told you, but other people's, and I'm grabbing that stuff, and there's just so much to it, especially if you've got them to market or add to it. The stuff that I collected in Timor from people, I actually did a graphic novel about my time at Arte Morris, like this studio that was built out of an old hospital out of sort of ruins and put together and finished by this European couple that is an incredible story to me. And when it was another pre-order, so I didn't do a great amount of them, but I donated the most, after the book was paid for, I donated the most back to the school so that they could sell them to people coming through. But when I grab it and I have all the drawings of the people I did there that I met at the school and them all drawing in it, when I went back and did a book launch there, it just is so much better than the photos or something to me. And it's a big part of publishing or small press or printing stuff of your own is that sharing and receiving.
Yeah.
One of the big parts is trade, the trade-off. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like you look through some of the records I've got and some of the books that I've got people to do some pictures in.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that stuff to someone else is worth zero.
Yeah.
Right? But to me and to people that get it, it's priceless, and that's what it's all about. People that come here and can look through and go, oh, this person was here. I didn't realize they were there. Oh, you got a photo with them. That's cool.
That's right.
To me, if my house is burning down, those books are the first things that I'm grabbing,
Yeah.
But to put a monetary value on that stuff, to other people, it's nothing. Why do we want these scribbles in a book? But to you, it means something,
Well, and these and I guess they're tactile, but they're also a version of ourselves that passes. Like when you see, hearing Jay the other week on your show and talking about a piece that was up for 37 years or something.
Yeah.
And trying to explain this sort of stuff. Because this is a more modern mark-making hieroglyphics. When we talk about the culture of the streets and where we see that, whether it's annoyingly, obviously decorative sponsored work, or whether it seems like obvious, on the other hand, obvious sort of vandalism or the thrill of the chase sort of energy, they all have value. There's these stories connected to them. And this is sort of the battle with keeping these stories and how to keep them rolling along. So for me, the small press is the best version of that.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, it seems very enjoyable and very crucial to community growing and connecting with others.
And the thing is with zine culture or with any of this press culture, the barrier to entry is basically very, very minimal because any kid can go and grab their stuff, print it on a $25 printer from Officeworks, whatever they want. You can get into the culture.
Don't go there. Go to your local printer, please.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah. Don't even utter those words. Boycott them. I would say there's lots of local printers. So that's another great thing about 3000 Postcode. You're going to support a local business, and just like when you buy a record that there's not that much profit margin on, but you can keep them in their purpose and their genuine passion to be making more. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I've bought records to just be like, the person with it, you know, I'm not really that big on this genre, but I'm like, this was such a good thing happening here.
No, for sure.
And this is what I love about fairs. And, you know, there's exhibitions. This is, I guess, a bit more upper middle class version of collecting something with a story. But zine fairs and records shops and stuff, they're like the backbone of this faith that this city has so
For sure.
well. Yeah.
People all the time message me saying, hey, I'm putting out this song. Can I come on your podcast? And I'm like, if they've gone to the effort to put it out physically, whether it's a CD or a record, even if I'm not into it,
Yeah.
I'll say, yep, come and talk to me because
Awesome.
you've gone to that effort to make it physical.
Yeah.
But if they say, I'm going to put this up on Spotify, I'm like, well, do you even care? Anyone can do that. Do you know what I mean? To put your money behind it and to physically make something, if it's a book or a record, I'll be like, yep, come and talk to me.
Totally.
And I think that's a great sort of way to gauge whether someone actually gives a fuck or not,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
That's nice. I love it. That's why you asked me to come on here, right?
Well, no, but you're making very interesting art as well as this. We haven't really talked about your art as on top of this as well.
It's easier to talk about other people's art, though. We haven't talked about your art either, Mahoney.
I don't.
You said before you're a frustrated artist.
No, I'm not an artist. I've figured out where my place in the world is, and it's doing this and giving people a chance to share their story.
It's a fine art.
Yeah,
Interviewing, collecting stories,
but I just
sharing.
talk. But I find it hard when people say, "Oh, you're good at it." I'm like, it's just me talking. Like I don't practice it. I'm just talking.
I'll give you one of these papers as well.
Awesome.
I think it'd be good in your collection to be like, what is this? Can they, within one read, they're just like a mess. And they're definitely made to be shared and thrown around. This was reviewed, so some of my work is as an editor, which I'm very proud to say those words. So artist is one thing. It took a while to get rid of that shame. You know, we talked about it before, when someone goes, what are you doing? Like, who cares what I do? Let's have something interesting new together.
Yep.
But inevitably you're going to get in a corner like that occasionally. And to put on one of those hats and say like, I'm editing an anthology at the moment, visual artists and with some autobiographical detail. I love talking about that stuff. And editing is like such a strange term. I don't know.
But no, it's a broad one as well.
Yeah. And so I'm proud to edit stuff, and editing some of these, like this one, the dailies, I asked people about their daily life and to make some marks about it. So I got some artists who are prolific at this, some that are world famous for it, that are illustrators and comic book artists around me in studios. I've been part of studios since that one I was talking about in Fitzroy in like mid-90s. Still to today, And one of my favorite things is going to the studio. I try to reserve one day a week to go to the studio, not pester people too much, but at least hang out there, and do stuff.
It's a social thing too.
Slightly.
What are you working on? I'm doing this. You're actually really good at this. I struggle with this. Do you want to help each other?
Yes, and you learn from each other, and you definitely pick up things, and the dailies was like that. So I'd also ask people around me in daily life I'd sort of inspire them like yourself, to put their mark to paper. And it's like, it's not that difficult. Even get your son at 6 is drawing, you just edit, lay it out and send me the PDF if they can't do that yet or whatever.
Yep.
And so these are quite a cobblestone version of an anthology. And they were quite a joy to make. And I'll give you one, but I also want you to look it up and give me your review.
Okay.
It was reviewed on the ABC Art and Book Show as the future of comics.
Wow. What year was that?
I think that was these were like 2014. It was about 2011. I had a break. This is where I sort of left my day job. I was asked to put together, so curating all these shows and stuff, I got asked, the NGV studio they used to have a restaurant there at Federation Square. Fetty Square, they had like a little $400 steak kitchen. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
Didn't last. In 2011, while they were pulling it all apart on government dollars, that took a long time. They thought they'd just get some artists in there and pay them bugger all. And they had a competition, and they got people. They basically had they had like a bunch of.
It was near Acme there, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Ian Potter one. And in 2011, they did 3 residencies. They did Silent Army residency, Everfresh residency, and a Mambo residency. Did you see any of these?
I think I saw the Everfresh one.
Yeah, theirs was definitely the greatest. And
Mambo
that
was
wasn't
in-
a competition. Before that, there was actually a competition. I feel like there was 3 painting crews, street painting crews.
Yep.
I'm not sure who won it. SDM? I feel like Dabs and Myla, I remember, someone who won, do you know? So basically I had this like window display and then, what was the story? They won. So that was a competition. I would like put your work in. They invited people for that and they got a prize. And then afterwards they had this residency program. It was meant to go longer, I think. I'm not sure what the story was, but basically when I got to do that residency, 2011, I got to sort of curate 8 artists, 8 cartoonists, comic book artists, zine artists, whatever you want to say, people that were prolifically making this sort of work. So we went into NGV Studios, called at the time, quite a nice big, government space. We were paid properly for the time, and we were encouraged to get grants and do fun things in there. And someone come up to me and was like, "You need a regular anthology." Mm-hmm. Like, do you want to do it? I don't have the money. Like, okay, I'll do it. How much will it cost? I'm like, I'll look into it. I'll get you a quote. All right, join my mailing list and I'll write to you. But it was a really integral moment of public-facing work and the studio. So it was one thing like painting in public and meeting other artists and hanging out and, wandering and doing our own activities. But meeting others who are like there to collect art and, looking at it on another level in the class structure that is art as well and art collecting. Meeting these people would be like, that's nothing to me, whatever it costs, and it enabled me to set up to turn over these cheap anthologies. And I guess I mentioned that it was reviewed as the future of comics because last year I got to do a talk about the futures of comics. And I feel like there's a really big part of my interest and research within this field is that it's a medium, much like graffiti, much like hip hop, that's still just a baby. It's so new. It's not like some of the versions of painting. It's extended from, say, some of those earlier versions of painting. And it is like this subculture that is still growing, and we know that it has, a limitless, an army of people that are passionate about it, and it's bringing them together to work on projects. That's the exciting part.
For sure.
So, there's that similarity with the, I guess where I touched on also was affordable art, and that thing being like very cheap. And that's, the futures of comics is like that, where you meld them. We've got a new talk coming up. It's I'll tell you about it. It's not till next year, but it's basically with some of the technology today and how that is pushing comics and how this language, which is, often a sequential narrative, are really just like words and pictures coming together in different formats, because a lot of comics could be looked at as a meme or, a lot of the things that are scrolling through are sort of like cartoons in a way with a picture that has some words underneath it. And the futures of comics is a subject I'm really interested in. The dailies, you got the future of comics in your hand right there.
And this would have been when they were still doing that free press, like MX at whatever it was at Flinders Street Station, which is the same sort of format as this, which was a daily paper they would hand out.
You know it. Yeah. That was part of it. And actually that was something, too many stories overwhelming here, but if someone's listening to this still and you've gotten this far, I mentioned Nat and Ali before, and they had these signs and these buttons. I love art, we love art, which I still have somewhere. And they, wonderful artists, but it really reminded me when I did my first show at City Lights in a public realm, hired Nat and Ali to be like cigarette girls. We basically had these, they were performative artists as well. And we did a couple of shows with this because it was quite a big funding. We got some funding to do these shows. We did a show at West Space, did a show in the Hosier Lane, and we did a show in Mallorca Place. And the cigarette girls had these boxes with free comics instead of free cigarettes, or at very low cost. Or if you didn't want to take something, you could add something, and they had these cardboard dresses or outfits on that you could draw on. It was very enjoyable. Yeah. And I just feel like some people had come for there's also free beer at all these shows.
Yeah.
Have a beer and draw on somebody or read some stuff, and often just left there.
Yep.
This is sort of connected to that.
For sure.
Well. Always wanted to do that. So part of Small Press for me is meeting with people in these factories or printing environments. People like Paul and his staff there have a wealth of knowledge that even that little bit that I can retain that I grabbed from them is really interesting. And every printing project has that. A lot of the printing I do in this zine format, which is, what do you know of the word zine? How does that sit with you?
Well, it's a DIY magazine that people were making before the internet because they wanted to share their stories and their views.
Exactly. And the press of risograph printing. Have you ever heard of risograph?
No.
And it's hot within zine culture or zine making because in Japan they made photocopiers that didn't have plastic toner. These are made with vegetable ink.
Yep.
And they're more like a stencil press as opposed to a spray on. Like photocopiers, as accessible and usable as they are, they're kind of toxic. And having them in the home studio, which often studios for this sort of stuff are like in your shed or in the spare room or right next to the kitchen or wherever you've got space, like some of these were printed with risograph, is this wonderful non-toxic homemade bookmaking technique.
Wow.
And so I love printing with risograph as well. I'll say it again, love printing with risograph. And you can get more dynamic colors. So this is almost the cost of like that place you mentioned before that does cheap photocopying, but you can choose your paper.
Yep.
You can choose your ink color, and it's very affordable, and it makes them just that little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I love that monotone sort of look.
Yeah, this is sort of art I select because these are some friends. I did a series of Planet Lyre, it was called. I did a series of friends from Yogyakarta. I have some connections. I've done an exhibition and worked with some incredible community in Yogyakarta. And these are 3 artists who did a selection 2022, Planet Lyre. It was part of a couple of things, but there was Asia Topa, and then there was a smaller festival, Hula Halu, probably saying it incorrectly, but it was a celebration of the noise of the city at night in places in Indonesia, and these were to coincide with that. But yeah, these are the sort of things I love doing also.
Yeah. You've covered a lot of ground talking about all this, but let's talk about your fine art stuff as well.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Well, I just want you to... you've done some solo shows and stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So where are you going with that? Besides the print media, where are you going with the art stuff?
Where am I going?
Where are you going?
There's too many roads here. So like fine art. Okay, so making work that's taken a lot longer. Works on canvas and other mediums that are sturdier than paper. Somewhere I feel like, worked with a lot of ARIs, so doing a lot of group shows, and somewhere when I collected enough work, and I think for a lot of artists as you're coming up, when you're making, you've got an idea and it often starts as a drawing or as a color or something of a feeling that you need to actualize and put into a format that is fine, framed, a beautiful piece. I definitely have artwork that I look at every day in my home. I love looking at artwork. Other than making this stuff, you have to have a consistency. So like I mentioned before, just getting up and always making something. You go through these periods where you're like, I'm enjoying pushing colors around, pushing paint and so on. So, and I feel like I've, from group shows, I sort of got stuck in doing, I had a lot of work, so I had, enough bodies of work to be able to talk about it that it meant something and to look at it as like a chapter of my own consciousness. I feel like 2016, I did, so I do a lot of residencies and I'm always working on different things. I guess I've explained that to you.
Yeah.
And I did this project that it was with a gallery in the city that they asked, it was Rubicon. And I did a show there. Have you heard of Rubicon?
No.
They're an artist-run initiative. So I love working with other artists. So a lot of places I work with the artist-run. And I think most of the galleries I work with are artist-run, actually.
Which is a better way to do it, let's be honest.
Yeah. But they're consistent. I feel like I did shows from 2016 to today. And so I still love pushing paint around. having said that, I feel like I want to not, burn out, because I feel like like last year I did 3 solo shows. I did a show in Belgium. We were just talking about this place, Antwerpen. So, comics took me there. But they're like, you're a street artist. I'm like, well, I guess because I don't have a Belgian publisher, and they have a huge, incredible, world of comics. But I was, everywhere I go and have a paint with people in an abando or a warehouse or a studio somewhere. I want to have a squirt and, like we said, have some beers, hang outside. And I did a show in Antwerp. I did a show with Backwards. So I did 3 shows with them. So in my hometown. And then I did a show in St. Kilda. So I did this show last year that was quite ambitious. I did a north side and a south side. Because I'm one of those people, I want to say all city, all of the terms, but I don't feel like there's borders. I don't want to, obviously there's this postcode we're focused on a little bit. But I feel like I love all parts of, this wonderful place where we live.
Yep.
And when I go to any city, I don't want to just be stuck in one area either.
Yeah.
It's difficult, But yeah, being from this city, I did a north side and a south side of a show that also had a tie-in. It was quite a large show. It was almost a survey show where I put in that book that I just shown you, The Human Works. Was a whole chapter of like my editing and collaborative community work where I asked people to give me their impressions of this character that is in my comics. It's been in my street stuff.
Yep, and it's it's like so interesting to see everyone's different take on you know what I mean? And with all those.
Exactly. There's a different take, and then there was my take on that evolution of it. I guess the character, you can read some if anyone listening is interested. This worker character sort of came to me as a 90s Howard era young person realizing how toxic some of the policies were in this country. And I was just beginning to learn about the sell-off of some of our resources, and the gas mask character, I don't know, maybe it was just in the air, no pun intended, but there was more, people were drawing it, or I was seeing it around anyway.
Yep.
And it became something that I was just drawing a lot. I don't think too much when I'm taking the pen for a walk. And then it just became something when I was painting with friends in laneways and drains and so on. And I think it was Tim Phibbs who's like, do that gas mask character sitting in your sketchbook. That's awesome. Chuck that on the end because you'll let it suck. No, he didn't say that. He's like, you just do that on the end. We're all just all painting, Yeah. I'm just writing weird poetry. It's like, put a character on there and we'll make it, it'll be fun. And so anyway, the character sort of evolved in all these different circles. So the show was sort of about that. Where Ends Meet, it was called. Mm-hmm. Why am I talking about this? Because your art. You asked about fine art. There's all these things, Maloney, they're just turning through. But yeah, that was a big show. And
where was the St Kilda Gallery?
And the St Kilda Gallery was exciting. It was in St Kilda Town Hall.
Okay, yep.
And so one of the, so that was a big space. It's a big show.
Big, yeah.
And so I think there was 200 pieces. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of pieces in the show. So there was book pieces. There was a small zine, risograph zine.
Yep.
Which has some of my sort of philosophy, poetry, word-based stuff. And there was that book that you're holding for the artists. And then there was a series of works on paper, a series of prints that I'd done over the couple of years in a few different, with some amazing printmakers. And there was a series of drawings that were framed. So a whole series of framed works. These take years to put together, of course. And a whole series of new paintings. Yeah, so it's sort of like, 3 or 4 shows in a way. Mm-hmm. In my experience with my shows anyway, the sort of shows I'm capable of. And I guess a lot of us, we, as working artists and people who are continually working on different projects, you sort of, some projects where you hit a point and you're like, I have to stand back a bit and, have a look and not just keep moving to the next show. I was asked to do another show and I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to do something in 2027, mm-hmm. But I need some more time because I've got a long comic, basically, graphic novel, graphic story, that I'm so close to finishing, but I've been chipping away on for over 5 years as well.
Okay.
And so when I talk about my comics work, which is really one of the huge passions every day is drawing. Comics to me are just like a combination of all the color stuff, like with painting, the composition, like with editing, the drawing, and the writing, which is saying like I love to write and read. So putting all these together in comics is just such a wonderful medium. So finding the right publisher and the right outlet for that is something I'm working on next year. And still just polishing it. And I've taught, and I've met with different groups. But as far as like fine art and doing a new exhibition, I haven't got anything lined up.
Okay.
I'm always painting stuff.
Yep.
So I do, I'm in a painting studio, and I do have, a messy space. So, and I do work on paintings, but I have, I've got a couple of pieces for group shows and different things, and always donating works. But yeah, watch this space if I don't have a show coming up. I'm not here to talk about that.
No, but if people wanted, will you do commissions and stuff still?
Always, yeah. So, I have some commissions coming up, and I definitely paint any surface. I always enjoy painting outdoors and indoors. I'm about to paint 45 downstairs, in fact, which I'm excited about. Have you heard of this theater? I was saying before, I do love theater and the idea of performance and people in a room in the dark together.
Yep.
Movies as well. Obviously, all of that stuff's great, but theater, and 45 is like Flinders Lane. So I had a studio down that area.
Yep.
For years, and all of that strip to me has such great value, whether it's the restaurants or the theater or the visual art.
Yep.
But I'm going to paint the 45 downstairs
Awesome.
stairwell this year at the end of the year. That's exciting. I'm excited about that. But always doing different commissions with different groups. But I guess, as far as something new that's coming up, it's the Opposites anthology, which I've been working on, which I have a short comic piece in, but it's the one that's being launched in Jakarta.
Yep.
It's being launched with an incredible art book fair called Press Print Party.
Okay.
It's in Jakarta the 7th of November. Going to be there for a week.
Wow.
Going to launch the book. Met these guys at NGV Art Book Fair, which I've been part of since I was part of the second one. And it's in its 11th year or something. And again, it's one of those things where you meet so many people.
Yep.
I think I was selected for the NGV Art Book Fair on comics distribution. So I used to have a storeroom, which we're about to open up again, which is basically like holding on to good stuff when you get it. So we're talking about this limited stuff. So we'll hold copies. I might find, say I'm in Belgium, I'm hanging out with a group that publish as well, like this sort of stuff, and I'll swap them 5 copies for 5 copies, or buy them if I haven't got any stuff or whatever.
The bar system.
Yeah, and then I'll hold on to them, and then people who come into my space can then get a copy themselves, or again swap for theirs. It's all part of a lovely chain of sharing.
It is.
And caring.
And that is what true art really is. Not the commerce. It's about the art and sharing it with other people that will appreciate it.
Totally.
We're on the same page.
You know it.
No pun intended. Just before we get to wrapping things up, as somebody who is going to, myself, again, picking your brain, I'm going to put together a zine with photos I've taken here and also different marks that people have left in the book. What words of advice would you have for me?
I don't know if you need advice.
Okay.
I'm not great on giving advice. I think you should just follow your instinct. Okay. I don't know if there's much advice you can give on zine stuff. As far as like finding the right format, because you were very interested in that.
Yep.
I guess you would like start with your budget. Like with anything, you're like, how much have I got? What am I willing to spend?
Yep.
Or how are we going to pay for this?
Yep.
And then look at your formats with how that works,
Yep.
Because
there's a local printer down here. I've already sort of done the groundwork.
Exactly.
They do anything from catalogs to books, so I'm sure that we can work something out there.
Yeah. So and meet the printer and go and hang out with them, because sometimes they might have, I don't know how many copies you're doing, but you're probably not doing, tens of thousands. They might have some paper that's left that's interesting. There might be, you can ask around for things that might help the project be more interesting, because I know you'd want it to be unique. But they might also have something they're like, we can give it to you cheaper too, or something, because you're into caring and sharing with the shit, so you want to give it out. And so they might just have something interesting there. that's about some advice.
Okay. All right.
It's about what I got for you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me on.
No, for sure, man.
Yes.
It's been a super interesting chat, and I'm sure you could come back and we could talk for hours and hours and hours. And I'd love you to come back at some stage when you've got more to talk about. Maybe you've got the next show coming up or a new project or something.
Absolutely. Always. Lots of projects.
Yeah. And I've got a wall down here you could paint as well.
I want to come out here more. This has been beautiful. We're about to go down the beach.
Yep.
Have some lunch. I feel like there's so much to offer with these bigger spaces. You know, taking your time on a wall would be nice. I noticed you've got some good spots around here.
There is. And we've got some friends down here that have some spots as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah,
Excellent.
you mentioned Tim. He painted down here last time he was down.
That's
and I went
right.
and hung out with them. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a few others were mentioned. That's right.
Yeah, a few people. All right, Michael, I appreciate you coming in. It's been an amazing chat, and look forward to seeing what you've got in store for us in print and in fine art and in everything, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.
3,000.